have been working for last, what, 23 years now?
Maybe more.
Yeah, maybe more. I'm like 23 are the counted.
Counted years, okay.
Yes. So, how do you see the state of not just cinematography, but the entire filmmaking in India?
Well, that's a tough one, which actually requires you to sit back and look at it a little. And since one has been involved with the making part over these years, it's difficult to tell, because some ways we have grown a lot, and some ways we have not changed. So some ways our films continue to be the same elliptical cycles that we go through and make some action stuff and then some romantic stuff, and this music also has not grown in any significant way, or the way we use music and song has not changed significantly. But then that's also our tradition, so I don't know whether sameness or differentness, which one is the better quality.
But
it's a debate.
Yeah.
So it's for me, like I said, you have to get a little bird's eye view and then be able to talk about these things.
But as a working professional, do you see there is lack of innovation within the medium?
I find generally, in India, except that now we put out 23 satellites in one rocket, we are, in scientific innovation terms as a society, I think we are somewhere lagging the past, like you're saying, 2-3 decades that I have been working. Because a lot more, even with film technology, we could have been at the front of developing some of the gear that we use, but all the gear that we use is imported. So I find that a little bothersome, that why we were not able to, we have enough of an engineering background and engineering industry, enough of an electronics industry, so why were we not able to do it? So as far as innovation and all that is concerned, I think yes, that we tend to fall on the back foot and then wait for something to happen abroad and then try and mimic it. And that's also to do with some of the trends in, let's say, cinematography also. And we tend to, wait for something to happen. So we are not fully at the front of it. Like, let's say in Europe in the 60s or something, the cinema was really pushing certain frontiers. Or in the 30s and 40s, the Russian cinema was pushing some frontiers. I have not found ourselves pushing those frontiers in the decades that I've been around.
True. But we were once discussing about the presentation, exhibition level, like film projection in India. What do you think? What's the state? Are we there yet?
No, it's all very dismal. That state is very dismal, and that is to do with the economics of the industry, of what the producers think is worthwhile investing in. I'm not talking about, of course, the distribution chain is different, but I think the economics, the culture is the same. That why invest in something when you're getting away with half that. So half that cost, if you pay and get a substandard piece of equipment, still works for you. You tend to get into that cycle. So like, we don't have a standards committee, we don't push for any either in exhibition or even in filming that we should maintain either a 4K standard or a 2K standard. There is no conversations around that. So if it's possible, it's okay. That kind of attitude is still very, very dominant.
Isn't that in a way like cheating to your audience?
It first is cheating yourself. As a professional, I feel cheated. That if some producer will tell me, no, why do you need this? You can make do with this. But I decided that for that particular film. So if I feel that these things are required for this film, and I'm not saying that I need all the big guns out of the truck for every movie, then the producer should honor that. So if we are shortchanging ourselves, we are first shortchanging ourselves and then the audiences. And as far as exhibition is concerned, it's been a very, very long cry. Subrata spent all his later years talking only about projection in this country, so we've heard it for too long. And now it seems like this cribbing never stops. The fact is that even in some of the premier projection chains, where the digital technology and everything is supposed to be high end, actually the popcorn is better than the projection.
Wow. But considering the amount I pay for each ticket,
so somebody has to put their either their foot down or to put their heads together and say that we should have a standards committee. which was also a conversation that we had with the leading actor putting his weight behind it, and we met with some of the digital cinema owners, and we tried to put together a little team amongst ourselves between sound people and cinematographers, saying, okay, let's set some basic standards for screening films. But it didn't go beyond the first two meetings. So we lose that steam and momentum very fast, and it's all dictated by economic factors eventually. So if it's cheaper and it still fills the house, then there's no problem.
So the quality of exhibition doesn't matter as long as.
So as a counter to that, when you look at America, there's an SMPT, there's a standards committee within the Cinematographer Society. There's all kinds of people looking into these things, and the producers are saying, yeah, okay, we'll go by these standards.
Should audience know about all this?
Audience should definitely be interested and be vocal and be reactive to all this. And they were, when some of the digital projection went so abysmally low on quality, the audiences actually reacted and threw it all out. Because we were actually using DVD technology to do long throw projection.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened in this country with some of the projection, with some of the digital distribution chains. And they got thrown out of the market. But at the top end, I'm saying there's a difference between, being optimal and being just okay.
Oh, just okay. True. What about, there's another discussion we once had which I would love to repeat now, is on the film preservation. What do you think is the state of film preservation, and are we doing anything?
I'm not saying we're not doing anything, because there has been a lot of effort from certain individuals in resurrecting and keeping the National Film Archive going, and as students we've encountered all those issues. There is state patronage and funding for all this, but it's just never enough, because we are a very large country with very varied centers of film production, with all kinds of regional things. So this thing has to happen at a decentralized level, where everybody is interested in preserving some of this thing. Whatever they consider is precious, and even if you don't consider it precious today, it might be important to archive it, because it might become an object of even if it's just sociological studies. But for some reason, and I feel that it might be ingrained as far back as that we are a country of oral traditions, so we don't really I don't know what is it that in our psyche makes us think that it's okay if it goes away. But our producers also have woken up to this whole reality very late, but now on the flip side of that coin, we still have interested individuals who are investing their own time, their own resources, going around the globe trying to raise awareness for this, and setting up foundations where we will be able to preserve some of our work. So both these things keep happening. So now, so far it was the responsibility of the state to run all the archives. Today we have a private initiative. So let's see how that goes and how far that goes. See, today I am told that if anybody wants to look for some records of 1800s and all that, we have to go to the British Library, because they've documented everything. They took back all the paperwork that all our tehsils and all our, all our little villages were marked, and all the minor official details, official logging also is still available somewhere. But ironically in the colonial library. So we've still not woken up to that reality. And I feel it's to do with some kind of historical psyche factor.
Do you think something new is happening in Indian cinema? Like, we keep on talking about these independent filmmakers, but
that happened in the 70s also, that happened in the 60s also. But what I feel is significantly changing is the domain is changing. So it's not about the film being made for just the cinema theatre. Today that domain has changed. So therefore that will result in various kinds of productions, various kinds of narratives being told. Because if things are just going to get onto the digital platform, can be independently produced, then that might change the matrix. And that, in my view, is a phenomenon of the past 5 to 7 years, and that's waiting to play out. And I find that also an exciting thing. Also, I mean, it's not really my time, to be in talking about all that, but I feel it exciting for all the young people coming into the field. It's both confusing and exciting
at the same time.
Yes. While theatres and this thing are still the mainstay and the mainstream, the fact is that short fiction, productions meant for putting them out on the internet and finding your viewership there, all those things are going to change the way we look at things. And this direct to home viewing, all those will change the way we look at films and cinema.
Okay. What sort of an advice would you give to a young upcoming cinematographer or director or anybody who's trying to break into the industry?
I find myself actually very dated to give any advice, because like I said, the game is changing so rapidly that any advice will seem like, what are you talking about? But there is only one way to be in films, and that is that you have to sink all your other boats and just give it everything you have. Because it's not an easy profession, and it just actually takes a lot out of you. So you have to be able to give it. You have to be able to give it everything that you have.
It's very rosy from outside.
Yeah, and it's tough. It sucks the life out of you, but you have to be willing to give it.
So after all these years, it's been from your very first film, even before Khamoshi, do you feel now you are revered as much as you should?
I think sometimes more than I should be, because sometimes it's embarrassing. I mean, it's just you are another guy doing stuff that is given, and most of these things happen coincidentally, so you are doing what you're getting to do. You can't become definitely not a revered character. You have to go out there and do your job. And if that job has some resonance and something for other people, then that's what you're here for. But beyond that, I don't look at it this way. I mean, look at it from this perspective, and I feel that there's maybe already too much of this.
Who are the current filmmakers that you like? Who's doing a good job at this moment?
It goes from, that scenario has been changing for me, because the filmmakers also are doing certain transitions in which are some working for some and not working for some. But I have enjoyed some early work of Dibakars, I have enjoyed some early work of Anurag's. So to that extent, there are a whole bunch of new filmmakers. Like recently I have seen Court and liked it a lot. So that's a very young filmmaker. And there are some really nice, sensitive, small stories being told by, let's say, a Killa. So there's in that sense lots happening, I think. And like I said, again, a big cross section. Marathi film suddenly on the resurgent. So all that is very interesting to watch. But yeah, I find the more innovative space more interesting for me to follow and track and to draw from.
Would you like to be at the forefront of being that innovative?
I would have really liked to be. Like I said, it's not all your own choices. It's also at that point in time what you were being asked to do, because it's, like I said, a combination of various factors. So then one film might lead to another and that kind of thing. So maybe we were a transitioning generation, because the parallel cinema movement was actually on the wane when we were coming into the industry. So maybe we were at the wrong historical cusp. But yeah, I would have liked to be in that circuit of where it's all about trying to do it afresh.
Would you like to start now?
I'm always game.
So what would you be your ideal project in a way in future?
There is no ideal. All film projects are fraught projects, so there is no ideal project. You have to, like I said, you have to go out there and do it, and then hope that it turns out meaningfully for some people who might see it and say, okay, yeah, there was something there. And that applies across the board, and it's not just about the small independent film or the small innovative film. It's also about the mainstream, because the mainstream also informs a lot of us in a very major way. So to be able to inform that process, I'm not ever belittling that. To be able to inform that process is also a big thing. It's a big challenge. It might seem to the audience that, oh, this is the same old repetitive stuff. But every time you go out there, like I said, every film is fraught. It's a challenge to go out there and deliver it.
True. But there are many a times audience come and say there is nothing new coming out.
But that quarrel happened with the last film that I did. Because everybody thought that, with Adil, Karan was just, where was he? What was he talking about? But I found that in those repetitive conversations that he was having, that he was reaching somewhere which was a slightly new ground and a slightly new interpretation. So I found some this thing in it, some merit in it. Because the kind of conversations that were happening, and particularly it's to do with the way we perceive, what do they call them, gender issues, So a certain kind of a male character, a certain kind of a female character's approach, and then the dynamic playing out. Is a conversation that needs to be had, and he has a certain way of being very current and contemporary.
True.
So that those contemporary conversations I find some resonance in.
Okay. What does lie in future for you?
Oh, I think retirement, sooner the better. That should kick in soon. You're also catching me at a point where I just finished shooting one film, so every time I finish one film, I say time to call it quits. But you have to think about these things, because I don't know. On the one hand, you can't quit because this is the only thing you know, and then sometimes you feel you need a little more time out.
But are you satisfied with your career so far?
That's a very tough one. That I will tell you another 30 years later. I keep telling a lot of people who say okay, we are wary of even approaching you and all that. I find that very ridiculous, because it's actually not about you assume certain things about people, and I'm saying that one is here to be in this space and this area of making movies, then everything that is in that space should interest you. So that's never a question.
On that note, I would like to end this.
But I have not read any of your material, so I can't say whether I will be interested in it.
I will.
And then you will hold me responsible for what I said.
Okay, thank you very much, Anil sir, for your time.
Anil sir comes here.
You have been always Anil sir for me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll do this again, maybe a year from today.
Absolutely, always game.
And we'll find some new perspective on some new things.
Yeah. Hopefully I'll have something different to say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.